I'm Chris, and I'm half of Band of Bards.
Yeah, I'm the other half of Band of Bards.
I am the letterer of this upcoming book, but I'm also a webcomic creator. And I've got a little series called Beware Toddler that I'm actually working on my own book on. I should be announcing that fairly soon.
I'm Bobby Singer. I am the writer and conceiver of Final Gamble. Probably can't tell from looking at me, but I am a trans woman who is in the midst of beginning her transition. And there is nothing else in my life I've ever wanted to do more than write. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to bring this story to life.
I'm Jorge Santiago Jr. I am a comic book artist. I'm the penciler and inker for Final Gamble. As far as like my previous works, people probably most well know me for Spencer and Locke, the 2 volumes of that. And I write and draw my own comics like Curse of the Eel and a lot of other things that I self-publish.
So in 2016, I approached Chris, who had his own webcomic at the time, about doing something where we could do interviews with vets, collect our oral histories, and turn them into like graphic novels and anthologies. As Chris alluded, like life got in the way a little bit at the time, and during the pandemic, we were able to kind of refocus and refine that idea and understand that there's room to take this view
A lot further.
and broaden it, right? Because there are so many groups being left out when it comes to having true, authentic representation.
As far as I go, I've had my own share of struggles that have gotten me to being almost 40 and finally doing something with my life, I guess you could call it. But, you know, we kicked around this idea, and life happens, and then we had to kick it around again. And we kind of got lucky running into Bobby, who was gracious enough to submit this idea to us. And you know, when we got it, Tim and I had loved it. And, you know, when we met her, it kind of solidified that feeling, you know, that we had, that we just think she's a terrific writer. And, you know, we're really getting an opportunity to bring something that we support wholeheartedly, you know, to the forefront the best that we can. It was not a hard decision to get behind this idea and this story. And
Twitter's actually been a fantastic tool for this, right? Because it's great for sharing the visual mediums and for just kind of, like I said, being very casual in your approach and making friends with creators, and just kind of showing your genuine interest in people so that they know that, you know, you're not just out there trying to scarf up all of their hard work and make your own buck off of their backs. Like,
yeah,
you just go out and basically go make friends, right?
That's been the biggest thing, is kind of, it's hard because I don't know, I feel like one of the misgivings that I had when we kind of jumped out there, and you know, we kind of talk about and occasionally is, you know, we're 2 cis white guys from Buffalo, New York, right? Like, what business do we have coming out here and saying that we want to do all these things? Because we have to back it up, right? And I think that one of the things that I've been trying to do the most, because I'm not perfect, because I know where I grew up, and I know, you know, my family is not perfect. So a lot of, you know, things that I've had to experience, and my experiences are different from everybody else's. So, and I lost my train of thought and where I was going with this, which tends to be how my brain works. But,
Well, you know, we mentioned, you know, our recognition that we need to find a way to go out and show that
there it was. Thank you for connecting me back to my original thought.
Yeah, we're not just a couple of white slobs from the burbs trying to harness some movement in the moment, right? Like, this is a very passionate thing for us, but also it's just like part of it is the right thing to do, right? Creating the platform so that other marginalized voices can step up and be heard is one of the better things that Chris and I could do in comics. So if we can create the platform and just stand back and shut the hell up while everybody else gets to tell their story, that's pretty cool.
Just give the basic premise. A gambling addict and a disgraced MMA fighter end up falling into debt with an elite group known as the Mercury Society, from which the only way to escape is to win a series of increasingly dangerous and elaborate games of chance. The series is heavily inspired by gambling manga such as Kaiji, Akagi, Kakegurui, and One Outs. It's a genre completely untapped in the Western market from what I've seen. And I'm dealing with themes of greed, capitalism, corruption, addiction, willpower, and solidarity. The two main characters of Final Gamble are Danny Lin and Jasmeet Khanna. Danny is a mid-20s gambling addict who is a pathetic piece of shit of a man who you wouldn't spit on if you saw him laying on the street. He is an asshole, he's rude, he's greedy, and he basically has no life skills. But he's not terrible at gambling itself. And there's more to him than meets the eye. He's not the complete asshole he likes people to think he is. And he's willing to do what he has to survive. Meanwhile, his complete opposite is Jasmeet. He is kind, respectable, confident, well put together, a former professional MMA fighter, and also the victim of a major drug scandal, which cost him his family, his career, and basically everything he cared about, which led to him having to take out money for his drugs, going into debt, and ending up in this situation in this underworld that he never belonged in. This series has a lot of elements that are the kind of stuff I'd want to read in a story. Lots of focus on character drama, development, and backstory. Tension that doesn't necessarily come from direct action. Sort of tournament-like action in a way. And really, I'm trying to appeal to a broad audience. If you're into tabletop gaming, if you're into martial arts, if you're into films like Fight Club, if you're into anime, specifically the gambling anime I've mentioned, you're going to find something to enjoy in Final Gamble. I've been a huge fangirl of Jorge's for years. Spencer and Locke is my favorite indie comic of all time. And so when I was writing the script for Final Gamble, I was visualizing in my head, I need Jorge to draw this. And I thought, okay, maybe he's too big for me to get, but I got to try anyway. And I was so happy I was able to. Harry Saxon and I are the only ones who didn't have any kind of connection beforehand. I found Harry purely through just a portfolio day on Twitter. I was searching for colorists, and this is why it's important to make your work easy to find, because his coloring was absolutely outstanding on books like Test and Vagrant Queen. And finally, George and I have worked together in the past on a self-published comic of mine that sadly didn't have enough support to make future issues, but it is what it is. And we had a really good working relationship on that, I felt.
For me, well, for my part, it's still early and I've still got a ways to go. But I mean, I'm lettering the book. That's something that in my opinion comes fairly easy to me. So I'm lucky in the sense that I haven't had any challenges yet. I mean, you never know what may happen. But like what I've done so far, like I've really enjoyed what I've seen, and it's been a blast so far. And I'm looking forward to working on the rest of it.
I'm a big fan of, and this is pretty like well documented. I'm a big fan of manga and anime. Like manga was what made me want to make comics, like for myself and with other people. And Akagi is one of my favorite series because gambling is such an interesting subset of crime comics, especially because like we have in America, we have a really long history of crime comics, and we have stories like The Godfather and these things that are like important to like cinema and film noir. But what I like about gambling stories and about the story that we're telling with Final Gamble is that it kind of shows sometimes it's not just a game. Sometimes people have to do things that are against every fiber of their being, but they have to do it because they've been put into a situation where they have to do something, or they have to sink or swim. And I think that I like to tell when I hop in on a project, or when I want to draw something, it's because I like the characters, or I want to see their emotions, their expressions, their lives put through panel form. And when I first read the script, I thought that the main characters, like these are two people that I really want to see where their story goes. And it'll be interesting to see the story that Bobby is crafting, where their tale ends up, making things that are like a gamble, things that's fundamentally about tension. And that's where I think the whole team comes together really well, is the moments in the story come across as very tense, even though it is just a bunch of people at a table, dealing cards, or I won't say too much, but making those moments feel tense and exciting and nail biting is it's a lot of fun, but it's also very tricky. But I look forward to drawing more of it.
When we got the submission, and I was looking through it, it's like, have these four been a team for how long? Like years? Because it just looks like it all fits together and it all makes sense. And when you look at a page, there's this cohesiveness that I always felt you'd only get from having a working relationship for years, right? And it, when I saw it, I thought it was absolutely something special.
I can tell you from our seat, we're trying to put out a good mix of everything, right? I think from my own seat, what will keep me from hopping into a series is if I just didn't get in on the first couple issues, and I hate diving into the story midway. So there is a lot of great advantages to trying to do something that's in a larger, all-in-one trade paperback format, or doing a series of, not standard floppies, but not necessarily full novellas, but individual one-shots here and there. For a publisher, people generally will look at you to put out some floppies as well, and just that's kind of like the standard, right? So we need to be able to put out something for everyone to some respect, and finding the right balance among all those different formats that works on the business side of it. That's a big balancing act. I think the storytellers in the group will probably have a lot of different opinions too.
One of the biggest things that we want to be able to provide our creators is the outlet that they want to work in. I read a lot on the Twitter machine about whether or not floppies are dead, or graphic novels are the way to go, or like, what is the future, where are we going? Digital has weirdly not caught up to any of that stuff, which is super strange, because you would think that you have better access to all that stuff. But people still like to buy a book, and I still go to Pulp 716, our local shop, and buy floppies for my kids. So I think we're gonna do our best to keep trying to offer the different forms of the medium, however our creators and who we work with want to do it. Like if we have somebody that wants to put together a 70-page novella, then let's go for it. If we want to tell it over a 6-book series like Final Gamble, that's the plan, then we're going to do it.